Expansion 2. Expansion 2, pages 54 and 55. Part 1. Reading. Love is in the air.
There is a lot of talk in the media about globalization and how it's making everybody live the same life everywhere in the world, a change that is affecting even that most personal part of our lives, love. We talked to 3 newly married couples about how they met. Bud and Chloe Wanamaker are real children of their generation. They'd been going out with each other for 6 months before they even met. Bud says,
I remember I'd been writing an essay for college, and I was just about to switch off my computer, but I decided to go into a chat room first. Everybody was talking about music, and I noticed that there was this girl who was into all the same things as I was, so I asked her if she wanted to have a private chat. We didn't stop chatting until 6 in the morning.
Chloe takes up the story.
After we'd chatted together a few times, Bud asked me to be his girlfriend. He sent me pictures of flowers to my email and said that he'd never met anybody like me. Of course, I knew that he lived in New York and I lived in Washington, and all my friends told me that I was being stupid. But I knew that Bud was the guy for me. I mean, I'd never met a nicer, kinder person in my life, and he was so romantic. Bud started looking for a job in Washington after he graduated, and 6 months later he arrived. The minute he stepped off the train, I knew that I'd made the right choice. I remember hugging him on the platform and thinking that if I'd listened to my friends, I would never have been so happy.
Amina Shah and Ben Downey got married last month, but not without some problems first. Amina says,
My parents came from Pakistan to the States in the 70s and gave us a pretty liberal education. You know, like letting us wear Western clothes and everything. But when I met Ben at college and told my parents that we wanted to get married, my dad went crazy. It turned out that he'd promised my uncle in Pakistan that I'd marry my cousin. I couldn't believe it. We'd come to the USA to live a modern life, but my dad still wanted me to have an arranged marriage. He said that his and Mom's wedding was an arranged marriage and that they'd been very happy together. And that's true, but I knew that I'd found my ideal man when I found Ben. So I didn't want to risk it by going to Pakistan and marrying someone I'd never even met before. Of course, I argued with my parents a lot, and Ben had to be very patient and understanding, because my parents didn't want us to continue. But I think they eventually realized how much in love we are, and decided to let us get married. I don't think all arranged marriages are wrong, but I think that if you're already in love with someone, you should be allowed to marry them, because love's the most important thing. If I'd married my cousin, it wouldn't have been fair because I wouldn't have been able to stop thinking about Ben.
Toru Kano and Mei Okada are both from Nagasaki and met each other at school in London. Mei says,
My parents really wanted me to spend the summer in London because I was having a lot of problems with my English at university, but I really didn't want to go. All my friends were going to the beach for the summer, and I begged and begged my parents to let me go with them, but they said I had to go to London. I arrived in London, and it was absolutely terrible. I'd just had a very long flight, and everybody was speaking English really fast, and they made me do a test when I was half asleep. So I was placed in a lower group than I should have been, which made me angry because my parents were paying a lot of money for the school. I remember calling them in tears and asking to go home, but they told me to be patient. The next day, I went to class for the first time and noticed a really handsome Japanese boy in the corner. The teacher wouldn't let us sit together because she didn't want us to speak Japanese in class. But we started speaking in recess, and I found out that he was from Nagasaki too, and only lived 5 blocks away from me. I couldn't believe we'd never met before. Well, from that moment on, we were inseparable. And when we got back to Japan, we continued seeing each other and got married last year. Just think, if I hadn't gone to London, I might not have met someone who lived really close to me.
End of Expansion 2. This completes the audio program to Supergoal, Split Edition Book 5A by Manuel dos Santos.